Welcome. This is Kansai Baroque and my name is Pablo Escande. I will talk today about our next coming concert that will be held in October 22nd of the year 2022. So there are many twos, 22nd of October of 2022, it's easy to remember. We will perform the Johannes Passion by Johann Sebastian Bach. Johannes Passion is a piece that was composed, it was written by Bach as a contemplation on the crucifixion and death of Jesus Christ as Savior of humanity. It was composed in 1724 and it was premiered also in the 7th of April 1724, so it's almost 300 years ago. In the Nikolaikirche in Leipzig, under the conducting Johann Sebastian Bach, so the composer. That was the premiere, and I want to make a little introduction about this passion. Before I want to start to talk about the Bach's passion in general. When Bach died in 1750, his son, Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, wrote that his father had composed 5 passions in his life. So of course we have the Johannes Passion complete, we have the Matthäus Passion complete, we know that there was a Marco Passion which is lost and it has been reconstructed many times, but the original by Bach is lost. There is a Lucas Passion we know is not by Bach, although Bach copied it and performed it in Leipzig, but he did the same with many music of other composers like Handel and Telemann and Caldara, for example. So it was his way of performing, copying, and then learning from it also. So these are the 4 passions we know, but which is the last passion, number 5? Nobody really knows, and there is some scholars talk about the hypothetical Weimarer Passion, a passion composed when he was younger age, and he was not yet working in Leipzig. Is in 1717. He was in Weimar, and he was paid. So actually, the music is lost and the text is lost. But there is a kind of receipt still now that say that Johann Sebastian Bach was paid a commission to write music for a passion. Some scholars believe, like Bach did often, he reused the music from that passion into Johannes Passion. And actually, when we perform or listen the whole Johannes Passion, sometimes we have feeling that some music is old. So old in the style of Bach, let's say, itself. And even sometimes he used older instruments for his time. For example, viola de amore, gamba, viola da gamba. And he used, there is one lute original written out part for the lute. And these instruments all play together in the Johannes Passion number 19 and 20. That is an arioso from a bass and followed by the aria Erwege by the tenor. And they are all old instruments. It could be that that music belonged originally to the Weimarer Passion. Nobody knows. But in any case, Bach did that often, the parody of his own pieces from before into new compositions, and he made them every time better. So that could be the beginning of what the Johannes Passion is. The Johannes Passion, there are several versions. The first version is, of course, the year where he composed it in 1724. Then the next year, 1725, it was performed again and it was changed. Bach changed many things. Then it was performed in 1730s, in the beginning 1730s, and it was changed again. I mean, some arias were replaced, some choirs were replaced. And then there is another version. So there are 4 versions of this Passion. The last version is from 1749, 1 year before he died. And it's almost like the first version. So 1724 and 1749 is actually the same music with minor changes. And actually we perform this time, this concert, that version. So let's say the original version, the standard version, which is the first and last. What he took out and put every time in, it was like he was not happy with the first version, but then finally at the end he came back to the first version. He inserted sometimes numbers from the other Gospels. For example, at the end when Jesus died, there is an earthquake and the veil from the temple breaks in two and things like that. That is not in the Gospel of Johannes. He took it from Matthäus and he inserted it in Johannes. So things like that, possibly people from the church in Leipzig said to them, that's not good, so put it back like it is, like it should be, and that he had to change. And also sometimes he changed by his own wish, some areas were replaced. In any case, that is, we are going to perform this piece in October, and we will perform it with original instruments, in original Baroque instruments, with the original Baroque practice performance, at least what we believe is original practice performance, and in pitch, and then also with the position, it will be special. We will have a setting of a special setting on stage that is not the standard setting of the choir standing behind all together and the ensemble, the orchestra before in front. So we will make it a little bit special. Like I have been talking with Jos van Veldhoven, the famous Jos van Veldhoven from Holland, and he instructed me somehow in the way he discovered how Bach was performing the cantatas and possibly the passions also. The position where he will place the orchestra, the strings, or let's say looking from the audience, the string will be looking in the left, and the winds will be on the right side, and there will be what is called the concertisten and the ripianisten. And the concertisten were soloists who sung the main part of the work, sustained by this ripianisten, that is actually people who members of choir. I mean, there were 4 or 8 more people, depending the amount of singers that were available. They will sing some parts to create contrast and to create more different volumes. And that was not Bach practice, but it was normal standard practice in that time. And it was discovered by analyzing the original parts for the singers, how many singers they were singing in a moment, and so we will perform in that way. We have 3 singers per voice, so 3 sopranos, 3 altos, 3 tenor, 3 basses, and they will be divided on stage. Now I want to talk more go more deep into the piece. The Johannes Passion, the main element, text element of the text of the Johannes Passion is the Gospel of Johannes, so the biblical story. This story are the 2 chapters, 18, 19 of the Gospel of Johannes, told by the evangelist in secco recitative style. So secco recitative style, already we talked about that, is lent from opera, Italian opera from the time, and is used in cantatas, in German cantatas and German passions, in a way of to speed up the story, and Bach used it as a main frame, let's say, to tell the Johannes Passion story by the evangelist, which is actually the most important role. Besides the evangelist telling the story of Jesus, there are soliloquenten, which are Petrus, Pilatus, Servus. So all other personages are the soliloquentes. Also sung in secco recitativos. There are turba choirs, which are short, aggressive and dramatic choirs sung by the chorus. Well, that is basically the heart of the story told in the Johannes Passion. But all this story is interrupted now and then by arias and ariosos. These arias and ariosos are the personal reaction of the composer and the poet about what is happening in the story. So at a certain point of the story told by the evangelist, there are certain very important points, and in that certain important point, the action stops for an aria or an arioso. That is, like I said, is personal feeling of Bach, musical feeling, and the poet. The chorales, instead, is not the personal feeling, but is the feeling of the Christian church. So let's say the church itself as a group. So that are also a reaction. So the story is also interrupted by chorales. So these chorales are sung, of course, by the choir, and they are melodically. I mean, they are very old melodies. It's not by Bach. Bach harmonized 4 voices. These chorales. The text writer of this passion is unknown. We know that the text writer of the poet of the free parts of the story is by Luther from the Bible. So that is the main, like I said. But the arias and ariosos and the opening choir and the slot choir, the final choir, is the poet who wrote that text is unknown. Then what we know is for some arias he based himself in the text of the Brockes Passion. So it is in a way arranged from there. So we can resume that the choir function in the Johannes Passion is divided in 3. We have the choir singing the small turba choirs, so into the biblical story, so which is like I said, short, aggressive choirs of, let's say, police and the brainwashed folk, Jewish folk against Jesus. So they scream all the time, "We want him dead," and that. There are the turba choirs. Then singing the chorales, which is actually now the church, inside the church, we, modern people. And the third function will be singing the opening choir and the final slot choir, which is more, again, is a poetical point of view, let's say, from the point of view of the music composer and the poet. Now I'm going to talk about the parts of the Johannes Passion. The Johannes Passion is divided in 5 parts. The first part is which is called in Latin hortus, which is garden. The second part is pontifex, or high priest. The third part is Pilatus, so the Pontius Pilatus part. Then is the fourth is crux, or crucifixion. And the last 5th part is the sepulchrum, or the grave. I told about the 5 parts of these passions. In the Pilatus section, there is what is called a cross form. So formally, Bach here arranged the score and the form of the music in a cross form, and that is actually very greatly done. The music that appears in the beginning reappears later, so repeats itself like a mirror, and in this way, this cross, let's say, in between numbers of the Passion, between number 16 and 27, is this cross form, and in the middle of this cross form is a chorale, and this chorale is number 22. And that chorale, which originally was meant to be an aria, the text is meant to be an aria, it's written by the poet as an aria, Bach composed it as a chorale by himself. So one of the chorales is not a melody from before Bach, which everybody knew in the church, but it is a written chorale, original chorale by Bach himself. And that is the heart of the cross form in this piece. So this number 22 is very special, and we perform it also very specially. If you come, you will hear how we done that, this special point in the piece. I hope this introduction will serve somehow to make you interested in coming to hear. We hope you will enjoy that concert, and we welcome you there.